however that works. Let's see. Okay, I did a little bit more work this time. I have a PowerPoint. You can see my mouse, that's good. Set everything up in OBS so we can do some, so you can actually see me and the thing at the same time. So let's get started. Oh yeah, I also put this together. All right, hopefully you could hear that. I think I set it up properly.
So loud in that one, we kind of messed up the audio.
Oh, sorry.
I put that as us being as loud as we were supposed to be.
Yeah. All right, so let's get started. No, that's the wrong button. There we go. Okay, so just to talk about what we're going to talk about today, we're going to do a quick review. We're going to do an NTS overview. You'll find out more what that means later. It's just form, basically. We'll talk about more stretch band stuff, and then SBTs, which are like exercises, basically, that you can do for archery. Local ranges. I actually forgot to put those pictures into the slides, but we can look at those later. I'll just have to remember to go through them. And then types of bows. Today we're going to focus more on Barebow and Recurve. What we talked about last time, we talked about safety, we talked about some stretch bands, and we talked about basic form. Real simple stuff just to kind of get you guys acclimated to archery and just like the beginning stuff. Basically, when you go to somewhere to shoot, you want to know and obey the range rules. This is like an example of range rules you'll see at a range. Sometimes they'll have more stuff, sometimes they'll have different stuff, but they're pretty similar, and they'll usually cover the same stuff. Most importantly, really, there are three things you need to know. Only draw your bow back when you have an arrow loaded into it. The reason for that is if you have a bow and you let it go like this, it can damage the bow. All that energy, I think it was like 100 pounds of force, it said, goes back into the bow, and it can damage the bow really badly. I specifically didn't get like videos of like bows exploding, because if you want to see that, you can YouTube that and see what that looks like. But this is just like a dry fire test that companies do to make sure that the bows can handle some stress. But like you'll see a lot of times that they'll that they can explode, and typically it won't, like the parts will fly forward. So generally you're okay, but it can do real bad damage to the bow if you draw it back and let it go without an arrow. All right. So you want to keep your arrows in your quiver. Your quiver, if you don't know, is this little item right there. It's what holds your arrows. So you basically just want to keep your arrows in your quiver until you're on the shooting line. In this picture, this white line right here is the shooting line. It's where everybody stands when they shoot. And then you always want to aim the bow downrange. It's pretty simple. Those three things, if you follow those three things, you'll be pretty safe. And then you just want to follow the range rules. Okay, stretch bands, we went over those. This is a stretch band. It's basically just an elastic, stretchy thing. Sometimes it's a tube, sometimes it's this is like a flat material, kind of like a big rubber band. You just tie it into a loop, and then you hold the knot in your hand right here, like that. And then you hook your fingers onto the string or onto the stretch band like that, and then you can draw back and let go, and it simulates a bow. You generally want something really light. This is a red TheraBand, which is one of their lighter weights. This is a green one. It's a lot heavier. But there you go. Those are stretch bands. And we'll talk about more stretch band stuff later. So just a quick review. And then we also talked about basic form. So you basically want to draw back with your dominant hand. So if you're right-handed, you're drawing back with your right hand. If you're left-handed, you're drawing back with your left hand. And you want, remember, your front arm straight. And then you always want to pull back to the corner of your mouth. Your back elbow should be nice and high, like that. You don't want your elbow down here. You want it up in line with your arrow and your hand, or a little bit higher. It can be a little bit higher like that. But you definitely want it at least that high. And then anchor is when you bring your hand back to the same spot every time. So when you're just starting off, index finger to the corner of the mouth right here, you can feel it. Make sure you feel the touch. And then that's basic shooting. And then you just stand straight up and down. That's it. There we go. That's what we went over last time. Today we're gonna go do a little bit more in depth in the shot cycle. We've already gone through these slides, or some of these slides, but we're gonna go over them again and talk about them more. So NTS stands for the National Training System. It's basically what we teach in the US in terms of how to shoot. And there's 11 steps: stance, knock, hook and grip, set up, draw to load, anchor, transfer to hold, aim, expand, release and follow through, and then feedback. Those are the steps. And then if at any time you guys have any questions, feel free to just jump in and I'll be happy to answer them. So the idea behind NTS is to help you repeat your shots consistently and to be able to kind of withstand the force of the bow in your body without using your muscles too much, because your muscles will fatigue. So if you're able to kind of transfer some of that weight into your bone structure where your bones don't get tired. So that helps a lot in terms of being able to shoot all day, because typically you'll shoot anywhere from like 70 something to like 100 or more arrows a day in a tournament. So you want to be able to shoot consistently and shoot well throughout the whole tournament, if that's what you're into. And then NTS is a focus more on the body and not on the arrow itself. And like archery is all about consistency. You'll hear me say that all the time. It's about doing the same thing over and over. And the NTS shot cycle helps you be consistent. It's a lot easier to do the same thing if you are aligning your body the same every time. The key concepts behind NTS, the first one is bone alignment. You want to, like I said, you want to use your bones to hold the force of the bow rather than your muscles, because your muscles will fatigue really fast if you don't try to put some of that weight into your bone structure. So as you can see here, you want to align from your hand all the way to your back shoulder, from here all the way here to here. So this down to here should be one straight line. And then this is incorrect because it's got a little break right here. It's straight from here to here, but then this shoulder is bent backwards a little bit. And then when you have I thought about doing this earlier, so I don't know if it's going to work, but if you have, what do you call it? If everything's aligned, this is my son's like toy set, but everything's aligned, you can put weight on it and it'll be fine. Like imagine these are your bones and you're pushing them down. This bone structure won't tire out your muscles. This will hold very strongly and it'll hold a lot of weight. But as soon as you bend it a little bit and you start to put pressure on it, it's gonna collapse. And like your bones aren't gonna break if you're not aligned, but that extra weight is gonna go into your muscles and it'll make you tired faster. Okay. Try not to spend too much time because I have a lot of slides that I realize. Okay. Second thing is back tension. Back tension is basically using your back muscles to draw the bow back rather than like your arms. Like the muscles you do want to use are your back muscles because those are your biggest muscles on you. So like those are the strongest muscles that you have. So ideally you want to use your back muscles, not your like hand muscles or your, arm muscles. You want to use the back. That's what's going to be the strongest, and it's what's going to have the most endurance. Okay, and then the third key concept is rotation. So like every motion is rotation. You're not like pushing your bones apart like this. It's coming around. Everything is coming around the joint rather so that everything stays nice and tight. Like you want bone on bone contact so that when things are pushing, so that the forces are pushing against your bone structure rather than if you're like separated a little bit, that's using your muscles to keep things apart. Anyways, some important archery terms: barrel of the gun. That's the alignment I was talking about from the back shoulder to the front hand. Land to is this portion of the shoulder. It's right here. And we generally treat this as like one piece. That's the land to. It's like your draw arm basically, except you want to keep everything nice and rigid and together. And then back tension, which we just talked about. But those are terms we'll use. You'll hear barrel of the gun a lot, and you'll hear back tension a lot. Land to, I don't know if you're going to hear that much other than from me. But if you're talking to other people, they might not use that term much. Okay, so NTS at a glance. The first step is stance, and stance is basically how you stand. And it's important to have a strong foundation when you're standing. So if you're standing, and if you're just standing, if you don't have a strong foundation and there's wind, or if you have like a weight in front of you, like a bow, perhaps, it's going to throw your balance off. So if you're not strong in your stance, it's going to affect how steady you are when you're standing on the ground. And the idea of stance is just to get a good foundation for your shot so that you're more balanced. All right, knock. Knock is putting the arrow onto the string. It might not seem like a very important step, at least in terms of your overall form, because you're just putting your arrow onto the string, right? But it's important that everything's the same every time you're putting your arrow onto the string into the same spot. There's things that help with that, but you want to make sure that everything is the same, even just like the placement of your arrow on the string is important. And at this point, you're ready for your shot, and you're acknowledging that you're about to start shooting. Okay. Hook and grip. Hook and grip are very important because those are the only two places that you are touching the bow. Like those are the only two things that are affecting the bow in terms of your shot, at least physically. So you're establishing two connection points, your fingers on the string and your hand on the grip. And you're starting to apply pressure. Okay, we'll talk more about this next week, but just the quick and dirty is the hook and grip, how you put your fingers on the string, how you hold the grip, how you hold the handle of the bow. Set is preparing your posture and your body, so you want to make sure you're standing straight, but you're keeping your center of gravity low. You're starting to use your back muscles, and then you're mentally focused. So you're also starting your mindset. Setup, that's when you start to raise your bow. You're raising your bow up, and that's when you're setting your barrel of the gun. This is when you start to align this front part here before you draw. And then you start to keep your abs tight, you tighten your core, and then that leads to draw. That's when you start to draw the bow into position. That's you're drawing your hand into your face, but you haven't anchored yet. And continuing to use your back muscles. Anchor, like I said before, it's where you touch your hand to your face. Recurve and barebow and compound anchors are all different. Compound and bow hunter generally are the same, but it's how you connect the bow string to your face. You'll see here, he touches his string to the tip of his nose. It really should be a little bit further forward to the tip of his nose, but that's fine. You're creating points of contact, basically. So you're touching specific spots. Like I said before, you touch your index finger to the corner of your mouth. When you become more advanced and you do more anchor stuff, you try to find as many points of reference as possible. So recurve, they have their hand underneath their jaw, so they can feel that. They'll feel the string on the front of their face, on the nose, and on their lips. So they get as many points of contact with the bow as possible, so that it's more consistent. It's like a rear sight, basically. Kind of, you're making sure everything back here is the same, in addition to what's in front of you. And then get to hold, transfer to hold. This is when like you're drawing back, you're using your arm muscles and your back muscles to kind of draw everything back into position. Transfer to hold is when you like let everything settle into your bones, let your bone structure take up all that weight, and then there's very little muscle involved. You continue to tighten your back muscles. The muscles you do use, you kind of keep those tight. And expansion. We're always drawing back. We never come forward in our shot. Once you start drawing back, it's always backwards, always tension against the string. And then you're focused on the target. You continue to come around. And then when you're ready, the release and follow through, you basically just relax your hand muscles and let the string go. Your hand is actually not fast enough. I will make sure I have a video for that next time. So your fingers aren't fast enough to actually like consciously let the string go. What you'll see is the string will generally slide out of your fingers before you're able to open your hand fast enough. If you ever watch high-speed video of it, it looks like this. So what we teach people is to just let the string, let your fingers relax until the string goes, and then you don't really need to open your fingers. And then I guess follow through. Like you're guiding your arrows to the target. So your hands going forward, your hands, your front arm's going forward, your back arm is going back in the same position. You know, physics. You want your arrow to go straight, and you want your hand to come straight back. And then feedback, you just think about how your shot went, and you make any adjustments if you need to, and then you just focus in for the next shot. So those are 11 steps. Let's see, what's the next slide, I think. Yeah. So again, there's knock, or stance, knock, hook and grip. Let me do a stretch band really quick so you can see. So stance, like how I'm standing. Knock, let's pretend I knocked the arrow properly. So hook and grip. So I'm down here, and then set. That's when I set, when I straighten up and I'm getting ready for my shot. Set up is when I raise my bow hand, when I raise my hand up like this. Let's come around like this so you can see me. There we go. So set up. Now I'm drawing. Draw back to my face. I'm anchoring, transfer to hold, and then expansion, release and follow through. And then I think about how that shot went. And it went okay, considering I haven't shot in over a year. One of the best ways to tell if you're doing it correctly is to look in a mirror, film yourself with your phone, ask somebody to watch you, and kind of like tell them what you're working on and what to look out for, or use a training aid. In addition, you probably can look at a lot of video, look at top shooters and how they shoot and see how they look when they're shooting, and basically try to mimic that, going with what you've learned. And yeah, one of the, like talking to a coach is a really good idea as well, because they can catch things that might not be obvious. And that's really important as well. Let's see. Next. Okay, so our next topic is, it's called specific physical training, or SPTs. People also refer to it as specific physical torture or something, I think. But it's basically exercises you can do with a bow or with a stretch band that will help you improve your endurance, your strength, your flexibility, or your alignment. Okay, like that says right there. And then we're gonna flip this so you can see the idea behind this. Okay, for endurance, you basically are holding your bow or your stretch band at full draw. So you go through all the steps, you come up, you set up, draw, anchor, low, or transfer to hold, right? And then you just basically hold this. You hold this at full draw. This is full draw. After you're anchored and everything's in alignment, you hold it for 30 to 60 seconds. Ideally, you want to start off easy and start with 30. And then as you do it more and more, you can kind of up that time. So you hold for 30 seconds. So I hold for 30 seconds. Boom, 30. And you let down and you rest for twice the time. So if you're doing 30 seconds, your rest time is 1 minute. If you're doing 60 seconds, your rest time is 2 minutes. And then once you're done with the rest time, you do it again. And you hold for 30 to 60 seconds. And you do that over and over, 10 reps. After you do 10 reps, that's one full set. You're gonna rest for 2 minutes. And then you're gonna repeat it one more time. So in all, you're doing 20 reps with a break in the middle. And this will take about 20 minutes or more, depending on how long you have the seconds set. But it's a good way to build strength. If realistically, if you're trying to build your endurance and you're getting to 45 seconds or more, then it's time to go up in weight and shoot up something, or work on the next step. Go up a little bit higher in poundage. Or I can go from this stretch band to this stretch band because it's a little bit heavier, and then build my endurance that way. So the next one is strength. Strength is similar, but also different. So you're essentially going from, you want to always start from the beginning, but when you're going to get up to setup, and then you're going to get all the way into holding at full draw. And then at that point, you're going to just come back up to setup in this position. You're not going to come back down. You're just going to go from here to here, and you're going to go back. And every time you get up to full draw, you're going to hold for 5 seconds. and then let down, or go back down to setup. And then come back in like that, and like that. Pretend I'm actually doing the 5 seconds. Then you just go back up, come back in. And that's how you're going to build your strength. It's just working your back muscles and coming back over and over and over while you're maintaining some tension on it. And you repeat this for, you repeat this 5 to 12 reps. Again, once you're starting, go 5. And then once you get up to about 10 or so, if you're doing that, unless you're at your, unless you don't want to go up higher, then just you can increase the weight a little bit or increase the tension. I can do this one, and then once I'm strong enough to do this one, I'll do this one, and then once I'm strong enough to do this one all the time, I can just put these two together. With a bow, you would typically just go up in poundage. So you do those for 5 to 12 reps, and then you do 3 to 5 sets of those. And your rest time in between is 3 minutes. Okay, structure SPT is pretty much just drawing back behind your head. It gives you the feeling of alignment and proper structure. Because basically you're drawing back in archery. So in archery, unfortunately, we can't get like perfect alignment because our bodies just aren't built that way. You know, you're going to have a little bit of a triangle right here. One of the points of the triangle is here. The other point of the triangle is here. And the third one is here, right? And you want to try to minimize that as much as possible, but you're never going to be like perfectly straight so that the arrow is like right in line. So the idea behind the structure SPT is to draw back behind your head so that you get the feeling of being perfectly aligned. So like when it's back here, I don't know if you can see that. You get the feeling of everything, all your bones in alignment. Of course, you want to make sure that the front arm's straight, and then the weight is going from here to here, from here to here, from here to here in one straight line. So if you can see right there, you can see that it's pretty straight. There we go, much better. So you can see from here to here, all the way back, it's in alignment. And the structure SPT kind of helps at least get the feeling of it. You're like obviously not going to shoot like this, but you can kind of bring it back up in front and try to get that feeling. So you're back here, you're going to bring this in front and get that feeling again. And that's structure. And then the next one is flexibility. And the idea behind that is to expand for 10 seconds. But this is more of more advanced SPT. Like after you actually are shooting a little bit and you know what expansion is, that's when like this would come into play. And those are the SPTs. And that's basically the form stuff that I have for us today. Do you guys have any questions about that? I went through it really quickly, but I can go back and talk more about stuff specifically if you guys have questions. Okay. And then if you guys have questions later, feel free to ask them later. Well, at the end, we'll have some time at the end to talk about everything. Let's talk about how do you choose what to shoot. The easiest way to figure it out is to try everything. Here at the club, we have recurve, compound, barebow, bow hunter. Those are the divisions we shoot and compete in. So those are typically the ones that we offer to people. There's also crossbow, but that's much more rare. And there's also like traditional, like longbows, which are different than recurves. Like longbows are typically what you would see in like an old historical movie, like, I don't know, Robin Hood or something. But yeah, recurve, compound, barebow, bow hunter. This is a recurve here. This is a recurve riser, and this is a compound. And then the differences between recurve and barebow is just the stuff that you put on the bow, or lack thereof. Another way that you can kind of decide what to shoot is like, what are your goals for archery? Like, are you really interested in making the Olympics? That's kind of what got me into it. I really wanted to try out for the Olympics and go and compete. And I did that for a few years, and that was fun and really rewarding experience. So if that's something you want to do, there's recurve is the only division that's in the Olympics right now. So that kind of restricts your decision if that's what you want to do. If you want to do hunting, that's more in terms of compound or bow hunter, mostly bow hunter. There are people that hunt with like recurves, but 99.9% of people that hunt are shooting a compound, at least if they're, bow hunting. Like I said, if you're more into like a traditional thing, if you like to do Renaissance fairs or something like that, you're probably going to do more of a barebow or like a longbow, traditional type shooting. And then last thing to consider is, are you just doing it for fun? If you're just doing it for fun, do what you enjoy. Try them all, and then whatever you feel like calls to you, then do that. Like, you'll see that a lot of the like mechanical engineer types, they like compound because of, I don't know, how the bow works, I guess. And then there are also people who like recurve for that, and they like how that works. So it's really dependent on the what you like. Some people like the challenge of shooting a bow without any kind of like crutches or training wheels. You'll hear people call the compound bows training wheels because they have the wheels, and it's easier to shoot. So barebow is today we're only just talking about barebow and recurve. So barebow is the simplest type of archery. It's going to be the cheapest probably to pick up because it's got the fewest parts. It's basically the riser, the limbs, and the string. And that's pretty much it. That all you need to shoot a barebow. And then the arrows and the finger tab. Arrows and the finger tab is, like, when we shoot for all types of bows, we have some kind of thing for our fingers to protect them. If you're shooting a compound, you're going to have a release aid. And then if you're a recurver, you're going to have a finger tab. Oh, I forgot. Finger tab. Maybe I'll go look for it later. But this is a picture of a recurve. This is shared between a barebow and a recurve because typically you'll shoot a recurve bow for a barebow. You'll have limbs. You have two limbs, the bottom limb and the top limb, which are pretty much the same. There's a little bit of difference between the two, but it's not going to make a huge difference if you mix them up. You have the riser, which is the middle part of the bow. It's basically the handle and the part that you look through in order to shoot. And you have the string. And that's pretty much it. Those three things. The riser, the limbs, and the string. The weight of the bow typically will come from the limbs. That's how you determine how much weight a bow has. But the length of the bow also kind of determines it as well. But we'll go into that when we talk about purchasing equipment. So those are the shared parts of a recurve for a barebow and recurve. This is the basic part, and if you have that, that's barebow. And if you add more stuff to it, oh, this is where I was going to have some more pictures, but I forgot. Finger tab, arrows, quiver, arm guard. Arm guard is like a piece of plastic that goes right here, or leather, and it basically just like protects your arm from the string. And let me see. Arrows are pretty self-explanatory. Quiver again holds the arrows, and the finger tab is a piece of leather, basically, that protects your fingers on the string. I'll show you. I'll go grab mine later, but it's in the other room. Recurve. So imagine a barebow. Now we're going to put more stuff on it. The two big things are stabilizers. If you look right here, this pole that comes out of the front of the bow and the ones on the side are stabilizers. Stabilizer essentially puts more weight on the front of the bow. So if you're just shooting a bow like this without a stabilizer, you'll notice a kick. So when you're shooting, it'll kick up, which is not what we want. Sorry, it'll kick up. And what the stabilizers do is it moves the weight forward so that when you're shooting, it balances better and like holds better for you when you're shooting. It adds stability, hence the name stabilizer. And then the other really big thing is a sight. Do I have? Yeah. So a sight basically is this part right here. And this fancy thing holds a little circle up so that you look through it. So it's this fancy thing right here that can cost hundreds of dollars if you have lots of money to spend, or they're also very cheap. And it basically just holds up a little circle that you put around the target, and that helps you aim. That's pretty much what a sight is. You just, like sometimes they have a pin, sometimes it's just a circle and you just put it around the target and it helps you aim. That's all it does. I think that's all my slides, which is good because we only have about 15 minutes left. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. While you guys are thinking of questions, I can show a few pictures. I only have like 3. There's a compound team. We're shooting against Berkeley, I think. It looks like we're shooting against Berkeley. And as you can see, only one person is shooting at a time, and then the other 2 wait. There's 3 people on a team. And then one person shoots 2 arrows, they walk off. The next person goes up, they shoot 2 arrows, and then the third person goes up and shoots 2 arrows. It's very fun. Typically in an archery tournament, people are quiet, you know, so that it doesn't ruin people's concentration. But during team rounds, and pretty much the only place that it happens, which is why I like archery so much, you can be loud. People can cheer for their teams. Like as long as you're nice about it, you can be loud. You can. We have cheers that we do when people hit the gold. So it's fun times. This was our female compound team just sitting. And they color coordinated their ribbons. And And this is a team at West Regionals 2019, I believe. And this is in Chula Vista. If we are cleared to go to indoor nationals, this is actually, I think this is where like a lot of our tournaments are. Indoor nationals would be there. If we had the South region, whatever regional tournament,
SoCal,
indoor tournament is also
collegiate
there.
indoor, whatever, something they call it. Yeah.
SEAC is all I know.
SEAC. It's like, I think it stands for SoCal Indoor Archery Collegiate Championships. Sounds right.
Yeah. So this is very, very nice multi-million-dollar archery facility at what was formerly the Olympic Training Center, but it's where the Olympic athletes train, more than archery. It's not officially called the Olympic Training Center anymore because I guess they sold the land or something. But anyways, this is where the Olympic Training Center was. And it's a very nice facility. There's a really big building that has an indoor range. That's where they do the indoor stuff. And then this is the outdoor range where they did the outdoor stuff. That's everything that I have. I think at the beginning, there was another picture. This is also at the training center. Yeah, any questions at all? Anybody? You don't have to ask me about what we just learned. You can ask me more, like how expensive is archery? How it can be expensive if you want it to be expensive, but it can also be really cheap, like less than $200 probably. What did you guys think about the lesson? Was it helpful? Am I just overwhelming you with information? Yeah, like if you, some feedback would be really good because like if it's boring you, I don't want it to bore you. So if like there's something I could do differently that would make it more interesting, I would love to do that as well. Like more videos, more props. Okay, one person thinks that it's good. Thank you. 2 people, awesome. Yeah, like if there's something that you want me to do differently, I'm open to suggestions. It's like my biggest concern is just that you'll get like bored of me just talking, even if I have slides and videos and stuff going. So if like there's anything that I can do to make it easier for you or like more interesting, then feel free to mention it. We do have 10 more minutes. We can kind of go a little more in depth into NTS, I guess. There's some videos there. Again, like the barrel of the gun is important, super important, and back tension. Those are really the 2 things that you really want to get right in archery. Some of the things to look forward to next week. Next week is stance, knock, hook, and grip. So we're going to talk about stance, why that's important, how to stand so that you can be more stable. There's different ways to stand, and some of them are more stable than others. Like most people will stand properly right off the bat, as soon as you kind of tell them like which way they're supposed to look when they're shooting. Most of the people will do it properly right away, but it's still good to go over why we stand the way we do. Knock. Really, the most important thing is just to do it the same way and do it consistently every time. and then hook and grip. So we'll mostly be focusing on stance and hook and grip. And hook and grip, again, is important because it's the only two places that you're touching the bow. So it's the only places where you are controlling the bow and where it's aimed and how it's going to shoot. So those are two super important places to keep in mind when you're getting your shot set up. So we'll talk about how to hold the bow, and then we'll talk about how to hook the string. Okay, I'm just gonna keep talking. I'm just gonna keep talking until our time is up, unless you guys want to participate and ask questions. Like, are any of the steps confusing to you? Setup. Yeah, it's hard to do. It's like hard to take in without actually having done it before. So tomorrow, like when you guys are doing your exercises and your practice, kind of keep in mind some of these important steps. So if you have a stretch band, I don't think they've gone out yet, as far as I know.
Yeah, no, we haven't started sending them out yet. We're still waiting for them to, well, arrive to us so we can make them and then send them out. But as soon as we get them, we'll start sending them out.
Okay. Again, these are just TheraBands. So if you don't want to wait, you can order. Oops. You can easily order something similar to this off of Amazon or something. Just search for TheraBand, or I don't know about StretchBand, but like TheraBand for sure is a brand, and it will show you what you need. Like sometimes it's like a thin tube, and that works as well. I generally prefer these ones, the flat ones, but some people prefer the thin ones because it feels more like a string in their hand. Let's go back. Okay. Okay, so when you're practicing, when you're by yourself and you're doing, you're mimicking shooting, what you want to do is you want to make sure you're standing straight up and down. That's really important. And your feet are shoulder width apart. Your hook and grip are correct. Like I said, when you have your stretch band, you want to put the knot right here in your palm, and you want to make sure that the pressure goes completely around your thumb and is pushing into your wrist here. You see how this is right here on my wrist? Let me switch this up. Right. Like that. It's pushing in my wrist. So if you look like that, see the pressure when I pull on it goes into my bone structure, it goes into my arm, rather than if I had the band right here and I pull on it, it's pulling into my thumb like that, and it's just stretching my thumb back. All right, let's just go back to the webcam. And then it's just pulling my thumb back. So it's like straining my thumb. You want it to be right there so that it's pulling into the wrist. All right. And then your hook, again, 3 fingers, very lightly, just hooked around the string or the stretch band like that. That's hook and grip. Set up. I'm just going over kind of like the important things for basic shooting. So if I skip over a step, it's not that it's not important. It's just that right now, when you're just first learning, it's not as important for you to learn. So set up, you're raising your bow, but you want to make sure everything's coming up at the same time. So you don't want to be like this following like that. You want these both hands to come up at the same time, the same level. And you want to bring it up high a little bit, and then come down. Right? So you want to bring your setup here before you start to draw back. Oh yeah, and barrel of the gun is also important. So when you're coming up here, you're coming up, this is where you're kind of turn a little bit, set that shoulder properly before you start to draw and come down. So again, you're gonna turn a little bit, get that nice and straight before you draw back. But what's really important is just at setup, you're straightening this, keeping this in alignment, the barrel of the gun. And then draw back. You're gonna draw back to your face, and you're gonna anchor. Find a spot to anchor, corner of the mouth. And then it's important just to bring it back into the same spot every time. You'll eventually probably adjust your anchor to a different spot, depending on what you end up doing. But first starting off, corner of the mouth is really good. And then transfer to hold. It's a little more advanced. Expansion, also a little more advanced. Release and follow through. Again, you're just relaxing your fingers, letting the strings, the stretch band slide out of your fingers. If you like what I like to do is like you hold a heavy weight kind of like down by your side. Angle this down a bit. So if you're like holding something down here and then it's heavy and it's constantly pulling and then you just get too tired and you just like let it drop. That's basically the idea. If it's so heavy, it's really, really heavy, and then you're too tired and then you just let it drop, that's what we're looking for in terms of a release. So you're drawing back and then you're relaxing your fingers until it's gone. So my fingers didn't open up, they just slid off like that. And then feedback. Even at this early stage, you want to think about how your shot felt to you. And then the more you think about it, the quicker you'll learn about your body. And then eventually you'll know what doesn't feel right when you're shooting. And that will help your shooting tremendously. A lot of it is about knowing the feel of a good shot. And the more you shoot, the more you practice, the more you like do these exercises, then you'll understand your body more. You'll be more familiar with it, and it'll be a lot quicker for you to learn. All right, we are at 9. Thank you for sitting through this, and I hope this was helpful. And I will see you guys next week. Does anybody have any questions? I gave you plenty of time to figure out a question. No? Okay. I understand. Just bombard Hugh with questions tomorrow when you have time to think about it a little bit. I'll have Karen put these slides up, and this video will go up fairly quickly as well. I will try my best to be there tomorrow. So if you guys have any questions then, you can ask me. But Hugh's the one that's going to be leading everything. So if he has anything that he can't answer, then I'll jump in.
Yep, and I should be there tomorrow too. So
who?
I should be there.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, the more people that's there, the better, or the more people that can like give a different perspective. So hopefully there's a lot of people there, and we'll see how everything goes. Mm-hmm. All right. I will see you guys next week.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for coming, everyone.
You guys have a good week 3. Don't get too stressed out.
Yep. If you need a distraction, we will be having another social this weekend. So especially now that, midterms are coming, we are all looking for anything to do other than study.
Did you guys decide when the social is going to be?
I think we said it's going to be Friday this week. To double check, but I'm pretty sure that's what we put out.
Okay.
Uh,
I will see you later, Matthew.
Yep, Friday. See ya.